a question I want to ask with me and Skip sitting here, because it's a challenge for me to speak about another geologic perspective, right? The MagmaChem perspective of how you start breaking down a geologic problem. So I thought I would ask the question to you and try to...
You mean, what's my thought process?
Well, explain the difference of what someone traditionally knows and understands of a geology degree from an undergrad, master's point of view to your point of view, or MagmaChem's point of view.
Well, that's a complicated question,
Yeah.
but I lay a lot of that off to the fact that I got a degree in philosophy. And it kind of gave me a methodology of how to come into a problem and break it down. And a lot of that is that you're looking at I'll never forget this comment that Jeffrey Murphy, who was my mentor in the philosophy department, specializing in Kant. And so I really got into this Kantian stuff. But he said that I asked him, what makes a good philosopher one time? And he said, thought about it for about 20 seconds. The ability to make distinctions. And that's a lot of how you solve problems. You take something that everybody thought was one thing, and you break it down and you find out that there's other component parts to it. So that's what the whole magma metal series classification is, for example. If you go to the IUGS classification, it's a one-stop stopping chart. You just find out where your little rock plots on there, and then as far as Streckhausen was concerned, you're done. Okay, it's a granite. Well, it turns out that's just the start. Mm-hmm. And then when you use, and you need a discriminator. So the discriminator that I used was mineral deposit compositions that were spatially and temporally associated with petrology X or granite Y or andesite Z. And then you start using the gold-silver ratio and then a bazillion other switches, as it turns out, to tell, okay, this guy has a little bit more potassium at a given silica level than this guy does.
Right.
And so all of a sudden you've taken one thing that was just one thing to the petrology community and you split it into a couple of things. And then you just keep going and going and going.
And that goes back to your philosopher mentor saying your ability to
make distinctions.
Make distinctions of something.
Using a discriminator, yeah.
So now let's just talk about geology as a whole now, because...
Well, that was the magma metal series classification. So that is a big piece of geology.
Right.
Because 99% of the Earth is an igneous rock problem.
99?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
from the core to, I mean, basically sedimentology, the stuff you guys have been working on, that's just this little piece of dirt layer that runs around the outside of the planet. That's nothing.
Right. So back to the root of the question, and I kind of feel like I have an answer to it, but a geologist coming out of school, learning their tools to understand geology versus a geologist coming out of MagmaChem school and learning how to understand geology, what is the difference? We can differentiate, we can make more distinctions of the natural world more than the college.
Yeah, you're going to learn a petrology that is unfamiliar to any other petrologist. So it's like Tiger Woods plays golf at a level that no other golfer has a clue about. It's unfamiliar. His game is unfamiliar to everybody else. And then you can sit there and try to figure out, well, what is it about that? And it's, people really didn't know. When he was at the top of his game, And even now, he's still winning tournaments
Yeah.
at his age after he's been through everything.
Yeah.
That's incredible. But that's what MagmaChem is. It's a level of petrology that, because that, again, is about 99% of how the Earth puts itself together. And so the asthenosphere, which is one thing to most mantle petrologists, is 8 layers
MagmaChem.
in MagmaChem space.
Wow. That's a good way of putting a visual to that. That's exactly right. We got almost 19 layers, I think, if you count up individually what you've differentiated in the layers.
So the thing to do is that if you come out of MagmaChem, you already have that data set stamped in your brain, and then the challenge is to come up with more of them.
A great tool for MagmaChem's perspective is the elemental makeup of things.
I mean, the biggest thing for a, I guess, young geologist, or even in your perspective, is being not satisfied, like you said, content with that answer. And
well, now you're on to a motivator.
Right.
Ignorance is my motivating force. I read an essay on that back in the day once, and I never forgot it. It says, you're motivated by your ignorance. If you think you figured it out, you're a dead duck. You never figured anything out. I mean, what I've figured out is a few scraps of how the universe is put together. That's a Kierkegaardian existentialism concept, if you go into a philosophical mode with it. We're just fly specks.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to have that attitude, but then you also have to have the attitude, I'm going to figure this out. And then I used to have these philosophical tools or approaches to figure stuff out. But I had an incurable curiosity to do that. And that comes from, everybody comes out of the womb that way. And then the adult world spends its time trying to stamp that out of you.
Wow.
So what kids have to do is vigorously defend their innocence. Because if you have innocence and you go into a problem, then you don't have bias.
Wow.
And that is very important, especially, but
attitudinally it is.
I mean, the one kind of issue I see, right, are students that come out of some of these universities have that ignorance of their professor, right? They already have that pre-existing bias that was given. I mean, I can say I did too, right? Structures.
Yeah, but you just
sedimentology, right?
You showed me something. You went to the most important part of the Lewin paper and isolated it. Not many people can do that. What the hell's the matter with you?
He's the skippo.
The skipper.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, from a fundamental point of view, I mean, that's super powerful. As far as being motivated by ignorance for the pursuit of truth.
Yeah.
That's
it. That's it. And everyone's born with that ability, but we get beat down as adults and we lose that.
Yeah.
Well, people get comfortable. That's the thing, right?
That's why
you get comfortable, and
like the PhD process in this country in particular is a beatdown exercise. They beat you down into your major professor's philosophy or whatever he wants you to believe.
Yeah.
Or you don't get your degree. Whereas the Norwegians lay back and say, go do this research, and if it's good enough, we like it.
Like, oh, that's different. We didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Opposed to, hey,
they're way more open. There's no question about it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for me, dealing with the Norwegian perspective versus the U.S. perspective in the corporate world, no question. They're way more open. And they give you a lot more rope to hang yourself with too. But that's fine.
Yeah. Hey, fall on
And
your
they
sword
listen.
and die.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks before people.
If the coronavirus burns itself out like all these other flus typically do, and gives us the summer to catch our breath a little bit, maybe with a vaccine. Because if it does come back in the fall, like the 18 flu, it could come back with a vengeance. Nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
And
its incubation temperature is only 26, 27 degrees C. So in the summer, I mean, like you said, it still can be spread in theory, but not nearly at the level.
Right. That's interesting. I hadn't heard that. So they need some. And you just look at where the map of where the virus is now. I mean, it's just simply not developed in any frequency level in the tropics.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense.
It's too hot for us to incubate or
Just
live
open your window.
in the outside world. But even in its host, temperature of the host is. I mean, it's really hair trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't we supposed to have a cool summer? Isn't that the prediction? Long before the coronavirus came out.
If we do, we're screwed.
I remember.
We need hot.
I remember.
We're gonna burn it out.
I was going to say cold in like what respect? I don't think
cool. The cool winter. It's going to be cooler than normal summer.
Well, that's what I think, because the Earth is slowing down. It's it goes through these little wobbles, these spin ups and then spin downs, and we're into a slow down cycle now. But that's why we develop fevers. We upgrade our temperature because the damn virus can't live at that.
Yeah.
Right.
And then people try to reduce their fevers, and it really
that's not good.
It's contradicting.
Yeah, your own system is trying to burn it out.
Right. Well, you don't want to.
But there is it's tricky because if it gets a little too hot, everybody burns out.
Yeah,
the whole shebang goes down. Because that's what happened to me, and I was 14. I'll never remember. I got my temperature up to 106 one day.
Holy shit!
And I mean, that was nip and tuck.
That's about the line, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really close.
Whoa, that must have felt horrible.
Oh, I was delusional.
Sheesh.
Well,
but I made it through, and I haven't had a case of flu ever since.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So
cool.
My system developed some kind of antibodies.
Wow.
Anything that floats in there with a flu tag on it gets whacked. Whether that includes corona tags or not, I have no idea. But that's the thing. We really don't know how complicated our immune systems are. And we're down to our immune systems right now. That's what we're fighting it with.
Yeah.
It's not being antisocial or social distancing or any of that nonsense. It's down to us.